Welcome to AK Anime Explainer. Today is explanation of Soul Land 3, Legend of the Dragon King Part 206. Without any delay, start explanation. Gu had only just called via the soul communicator informing him of her departure when Tang Wulin received such a letter from Yun Ming. His joy and happiness in the early morning had all gone in a split second. It was as if someone had poured a basin full of cold water onto his head. Two of the most important women in his life had left without a word. It's all your fault. It was you who drove her away with sadness. If I can't find Enea, humph. Yun Ming gave a cold grunt. It felt like the entire Sea God's island was trembling. Tang Wulin gave himself a tight slap with a crisp clapping sound. It was true that he did enjoy a moment of an emotional flare-up with Gu last night, such that he neglected his sister. How could he not suffer from pain and sorrow because of this? However, his eyes calmed down swiftly after he struck himself despite leaving behind a bright red handprint on his cheek. Hello? You're Enea's teacher, so you must be the Sea God Pavilion Master, right? Tang Wulin is pleased to meet the Pavilion Master. He saluted Yun Ming immediately. Yun Ming waved his hand once to dismiss him. Where did Enea go? Can you think of somewhere? Tang Wulin gave a forced smile. I can't think of anything. It has already been over 3 years since I last came here. I can't possibly think of anywhere. Not only has Enea left, but Gu has also just given me a call via the soul communicator that she has left too. I don't know if their departure is related, but I feel like we should look for them at once right now. We should look for them in all the places they have possibly visited. Does Enea have any friends on Sea God's Island? Yun Ming's expression was slightly relaxed upon realizing that Tang Wulin had calmed down so soon and had not lost his wits. Nope. Enea lives in deep seclusion and rarely comes out on most days. She almost never goes out other than spending time with me and my wife. She doesn't have many friends either. Otherwise, she could not cultivate so swiftly at her age. Tang Wulin spoke. Both of them have left, so perhaps it's somehow related. I'm going to ask around from my companions about Gu's whereabouts. They are the rest of the members of Shrek 7 Monsters. They might have some information. I was always in the outer court when I was still in the academy back in the beginning, so I'm not familiar with the inner court. Maybe they would know more. Moreover, Gu is from the Spirit Pagoda. She might be at the Spirit Pagoda's headquarters. I think that I should head to Spirit Pagoda immediately and call for my companions to help look for her. Yun Ming's expression suddenly became peculiar. Do you know that Gu acted as the Shrek 7 Monsters leader in your place originally? She can't join Shrek 7 Monsters because of her background in the Spirit Pagoda. She always believed that you would be coming back, so she helped to substitute for you. Tang Wulin was stunned. I wasn't aware of that. Yun Ming spoke with a deep voice. Leave this aside first. Visit the Spirit Pagoda as you've said. I'll call some of the Academy's people to look for them. We can certainly find them as long as they've yet to leave Shrek City. It's also best if we can find them, or I'll never forgive you. Tang Wulin did not care about Yun Ming's anger. Despite his great effort in calming himself, how was he not burning with anxiety as well? He ran outside at lightning speed. As he was running, he dialed his companions' numbers one by one via the soul communicator. Fortunately, everyone's soul communicator numbers remained the same. Xie answered, What? Gu has left? Big brother, what happened? Oh, sure, we'll look for her in the academy while you head to the Spirit Pagoda first. You're right that the place that she's most probably visiting is the Spirit Pagoda. She visits there a few times every month usually. The last time we went over to the Spirit Ascension platform to elevate our soul rings, I noticed that the other members of the Spirit Pagoda addressed her in an extremely prestigious manner. Her position in the Spirit Pagoda must already be rather high now. Yuan and Yehue said, Go, quick! Ever since you went missing, Gu has been in a troubled mood all along. Leave the academy to us. Yu Jingyu stated, I'll look for her outside at some of the places we usually go for meals. Xu Xiaoyuan replied, I'll look for her at our usual cultivation spots. Yi Xinglan spoke, I'll look in the areas surrounding the inner court. Xu Lixi is with me now. His companions were all bustling about, while Tang Wulin dashed out of Shrek Academy like a bird in flight. He hailed a taxi and headed straight for the Spirit Pagoda headquarters. The entire Shrek Academy began to take action not long after he had left. All of Shrek City's authoritative levels and transportation centers received notification and photos of Enea and Guu so they could search for any trace of them. Atlas Doluo Yunming was a powerful figure. He was capable of launching an absolutely huge force in a split second if he wished to look for a person. In reality, he had no need to look for Enea inside the academy. At his cultivation speed, he could spread his spiritual power and cover the grounds of the entire academy with ease and even Shrek City. Yet he could not find any trace of Enea or even her aura. It was as if Enea had vanished into thin air. No. 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 Tang Wulin did not receive any useful information from the Spirit Pagoda headquarters. The issue was that he was not from the Spirit Pagoda. There was no way he could find out information of a high-ranking official's whereabouts. Afterward, the Academy personally communicated with the Spirit Pagoda and received the Spirit Pagoda's information that Guu had not headed to Spirit Pagoda for half a month, so naturally, she was not there right now. For the next 3 days, Tang Wulin and his companions had searched through almost every corner of Shrek City, but they did not manage to find even one clue. Guu was gone. Enea was gone. There was no way they could be contacted via any sort of communication method. The violent ups and downs of life were nothing more than this. Tang Wulin searched without rest for 3 days before he returned to Shrek Academy once again. He did not go to the inner court. Instead, he returned to the empty working students' dormitory alone. There was no new intake of students, so everything was exactly the same as before they had headed to the Star Luo continent. Tang Wulin sat on the steps in front of the dormitory as he looked toward the front in a daze. His usually bright eyes had now become bloodshot. Why did she leave like that? Why? They had just gotten together, and she had just admitted to loving him, yet she left without a word. Now, Tang Wulin realized that she was facing some peril so great that she feared even Shrek Academy was incapable of withstanding the trouble. Tang Wulin was filled with guilt when he thought about Enea. He resented himself so much for not accompanying Enea on that night to console her broken heart. The double agony of losing someone made Tang Wulin suffer from excruciating pain in his heart. Another person would have already broke down since earlier in his place. He would not be able to withstand this if it was not because of the repeated spiritual, psychological and physical sufferings in the past. Enea left when he was 6 years old. This time she had left once again when he was 16 years old. Where is Enea actually? Where's Guu? Why did both of them leave? Is it something that can't be faced together? Why does everyone leave me? Tang Wulin suddenly felt like he was most serene when he was at the Dragon Valley. He spent every day bustling about continuously without rest, but at least his heart was peaceful. Even though he was always missing both of them badly, it did not feel as agonizing as now. Wulin. A gentle voice echoed by his side. Tang Wulin raised his head and found Dayuna standing by his side. There were 2 more figures behind her. They were Long Yu and Xu Emiya. I've heard about what happened. Even though I don't know why she left, but since both of you are in love, please carry on with your search. Perhaps she may return one day anyhow, Dayuna consoled. Tang Wulin shook his head. Xu Emiya walked in great strides to his front. Stand up. Stop acting like a loser. Let me ask, does she love you? Tang Wulin nodded without the slightest hesitation. He did not have any doubt about this. I can tell that she loves you too. Then why did she leave in such an abstruse manner? Xu Emiya spoke coldly, it's no more than your inability to make her feel secure. You're not powerful enough yet? Shrek Academy may be powerful, but the Academy is neutral. There must be some powerful enemy she needs to face, yet she refuses to incriminate you, that's why she left. Am I right? Tang Wulin was stunned for a moment. Shu Emire's wild guess hit its mark regarding the situation at hand. Since it's this reason, then it's your problem. Whose problem is it that you're not strong enough? You wish to look for her, but you must first become more powerful. Otherwise, even if you manage to find her, she'll still leave you again when she has no other choice. You suffer because of your weakness. When you're powerful enough, who else in the world is capable of seizing your lover? Shu Emire's voice sounded tough and mocking, but it felt like a sledgehammer that pounded his heart ferociously. Yes? Why did she leave? It's precisely because I'm not powerful enough. However, Enea. Shu Emire spoke in disdain. Enea? She's going to be fine even if you're not. Don't you know anything about a two-word battle armor master's power? How about you? You're only a 4-ring. What's the point of worrying over this? Look at you, you're good for nothing except for your good looks. You're just like a pewter spearhead that shines like silver, impressive but useless. I really don't understand why there are so many females fond of you. Hey, you're not allowed to call him that. Dayuna was furious with Shu Emire. Shu Emire spoke earnestly. Foolish little girl. When you're looking for a man, look for a man capable of protecting you. I wouldn't even take him if he were given to me for free. Bye. She smacked Long Yu, who was at her side as she was saying that. Then, she turned around and left. Long Yu did not have much sympathy for Tang Wulin. He could not help feeling an intense joy as he listened to Shu Emire scolding Tang Wulin in rage. After Tang Wulin and Ji Yu's date ended yesterday, Long Yu finally chose Shu Emire. He could not believe himself either, as he had just met Shu Emire recently after all. However, he felt he made the right choice the more he thought about it. Shu Emire was frank and upright. She advocated one's individual strength and power. Did he not possess strength the most? He fancied Shu Emire for being a girl who appeared hot-tempered but was actually exquisite within. Emire, wait for me. Long Yu chased after her in quick strides. Emire, were you acquainted with Tang Wulin in the past? Long Yu asked. Shu Emire darted a look at him. I wasn't. Why would I be acquainted with a coward like him? Women today are all face worshippers, but what's the point of having a good-looking face? I'm a pragmatic person. Even though you look ugly, you're a tough guy. Long Yu's expression stiffened instantaneously. Are you complimenting me? Shu Emire glared at him. Of course. What do you think? Long Yu gave a forced smile. You probably know my story, right? The story about how the Shrek 7 monsters defeated us in the Star Luo Empire's Continental Young High-Ranking Soul Masters Elite competition. Shu Emire nodded. Yes. I thought that was exaggerated initially, but after battling you yesterday, I think Ji Yu and the others are quite capable. Long Yu spoke. Ji Yu wasn't the leader of the team at the time. Shu Emire was stunned for a moment. Oh. I'm not that interested in this matter. If it wasn't Ji Yu, then who was it? She had no idea regarding this because, as an inner court disciple, she spent most of her time in closed-door cultivation and studied her soul devices. It was the guy you called a coward earlier. I was a 6-ring, 2-word battle armor master then. Both he and Ji Yu weren't even 1-word battle armor masters, although they were both 4-ring. They joined forces and defeated me. Even though I'm unwilling to admit it, I must say that Tang Wulin isn't a coward. He's rather powerful. I feel threatened by him despite being a 7-ring myself. Huh? Dayuna told Tang Wulin eagerly, don't listen to her. She doesn't know how powerful you are. Tang Wulin gave a forced smile while shaking his head. She's right, you know. In the final analysis, I'm not powerful enough. That's why I'm incapable of protecting them. Thus, both of them left me. Aren't I a failure? Dayuna grabbed his arm. Don't you ever think like that. You still have me by your side even if both of them are gone. I'll never leave you. I'll always stay and accompany you as long as you're willing. Tang Wulin shook his head. Yuna, you're a nice girl. However, I already explained during the Sea God Lake Date Festival earlier. There is no space for a second person in my heart, at least not right now. However, don't worry. I won't sink into depression because of this incident. There are still many things for me to do. They left, so I'll look for them. Senior Emiya is right. They are powerful enough to protect themselves under normal circumstances. I need to improve myself because I'm weak. I must elevate my power as soon as possible. I'll certainly look for them when I'm powerful enough. Tang Wulin had always been a tenacious person, especially when he faced a difficult situation. He suffered a great blow this time. He had just returned when the two people most important to him left. However, Shu Emiya's words awakened him. Despite suffering from the excruciating pain in his heart, he brought himself to undertake the number one priority, which was to elevate his power. At this point, Tang Wulin stood up. Yuna, I'm heading to the inner court now. I'll pull myself together. You'll always be my friend. However, we can never be lovers. I'm sorry. Tang Wulin dashed in the inner court's direction upon saying this. He did not wish to hurt her, but he needed to get the message across to Yuna. Otherwise, he would only cause further misunderstanding later on. Yuna stood there in a daze as she watched him leave. There were mixed feelings in her heart. Tang Wulin's place in the dormitory had already been assigned, but the dormitory was not on Sea God's Island. Enea's departure had infuriated Atlas Dolor Yunming. Even though he did not punish Tang Wulin, he would not treat him well either. The inner court's academic building was large while the dormitory space behind it was vast. The number of inner court disciples was fewer than the outer courts. Hence, there were always enough places in the dormitory even with everyone assigned to a room each. Tang Wulin returned to his room and removed his clothes in a jiffy before entering the bathroom. It had been a few days since he last took a shower. He wished to cleanse his body and take a good rest before he began to focus his energy into elevating his power. He would work hard to elevate himself since he could not find them for the time being. While waiting for their return, he would practice to become even more powerful. Tang Wulin believed that Enea and Guu would certainly return. Perhaps, he would look for them instead when he became more powerful. At the moment, it would be meaningless for him to go searching blindly. Shu Emiya was right about how he was the cause, as he was not powerful enough. He revived the goal in his heart once again. His strength at the moment was barely powerful enough. He needed an even more potent power. He turned on the tap in the bathroom. Just as Tang Wulin was preparing to wash himself, he was astonished to find a necklace around his neck. He had been in an agonizing and self-deprecating state for the past few days. He was not even aware of the necklace until now. The necklace was a fine silver chain and there was a pendant hanging from it. The oval-shaped pendant was the size of a pigeon egg. It was made of silver and dazzling with fine striations on its surface. This was obviously a silver dragon scale. From his knowledge of the dragon clan's aura in the Dragon Valley, he recognized the dragon scale to be from his very own bloodline. Did Guu leave this behind for me? Tang Wulin carefully removed the pendant. His gaze appeared bedazzled. He felt as if Guu was standing before him as he touched the pendant for some unknown reason. He placed it close to his eyes for a better look and discovered that the pendant was not truly flat. It bulged a little on one side while the reverse side was concave. It appeared to be similar to a tiny shield. There was a total of 4 layers of striations on the scale, with each layer overlapping another, making it appear multidimensional. All the striations curved upward. With just a faint glimmer of light shining onto the scale, it would reflect a radiance that appeared holographic. Tang Wulin spun the scale subconsciously and shone the reflected radiance against the wall. It formed into the shape of a tiny dragon and was exceptionally peculiar. Guu loves me. She left because she had no other choice. The sadness in Tang Wulin's eyes gradually faded and was replaced with a determined look. One was most worried when one's love for another was not being reciprocated in a relationship. However, when Tang Wulin saw the pendant, he knew this was not the case. Guu's departure was compelled by circumstances, otherwise, she would not be in so much pain. Senior Shuamaya was right, my inability to keep her was because I'm not powerful enough. He instinctively clenched the silver scale in his palm and felt its sharp edges. Tang Wulin took a deep breath. He would first set his mind on being more powerful. Guu, wait for me. I'll surely accompany you as we go through whatever difficulty that lies before us. Wait for me to become powerful. At this point, Tang Wulin picked up his soul communicator and dialed a number. Xinglan, do you mind coming over to my place? At the same time, please tell everyone that there's no need to look for her anymore. We've searched wherever we could for the past few days. We'll never find her if she's avoiding us intentionally. She gazed into the distance where the white mist was vast and hazy. Guu stood over there quietly. She was on a platform suspended at a high altitude. Behind her was the Spirit Pagoda towering above all else. This was the highest point of the Spirit Pagoda headquarters. It was known as the Cloud Rise platform. She had been standing here for a very long time. Her right hand was placed before her chest all along with something in her palm. Even though it's very painful, why do I like this pain? Is this love? She had already regained her initial appearance with black hair and ebony eyes. She was wearing a long white dress. One could tell from the golden striations along the seams of her dress and the badge on her chest that she had been promoted to a very high rank within the Spirit Pagoda. She slowly opened her palm. A shimmering golden piece of a diamond-shaped scale was in the middle of her palm. It was threaded with a fine golden chain. The pattern on the scale was striking with 4 overlapping layers. One side of the scale was concave, making it appear like a tiny shield. She hung it around her neck carefully, then pushed it along her collar into the spot that was closest to her body. The direction that she was gazing at was the location of Shrek Academy. Why? Can't bear to part with it, a gentle voice echoed behind her back. Guu turned around swiftly. Without even taking a look at the person, she saluted respectfully. Teacher? Heavenly Phoenix Doluol and Yaozhu walked slowly to her side. Shrek is truly an attractive place. Since you've already chosen to leave, don't regret it. You're finding it hard to part with the academy, or is it someone? Guu's body shuddered. You know? Heavenly Phoenix Doluol smiled. How can I not know? That was the Sea God Lake Date Festival. I was once. At this point, she paused. There was disappointment reflected on her charming face. I don't understand why he chose to leave. He should be outstanding to be fancied by you. I've seen him before. He is truly an exceptional talent. You should try to talk him into joining us. Guu smiled bitterly as she shook her head. I don't wish to make things difficult for him. He's already with Tang sect. If I had not left, I think the possibility of me joining Tang sect because of him would be greater than the possibility of him joining us. You know my ambition. I won't be bogged down by love. There was a sense of approval in Heavenly Phoenix Doluor's eyes, but also sadness at the same time. Child, you're shouldering a burden that's too heavy even for you. Although I'm gratified to witness all this, but you may never get a second chance when it comes to love. Moreover, your path has already been paved according to our plan. When you're standing at the continent's peak one day, perhaps you'll realize that there's a gap between you and him. By then, it'll be impossible for both of you to be together again. You're still young, teacher will not reproach you if you choose to spend some time with him now. Guu suddenly shook her head rapidly. It's okay. Teacher, my heart is not as determined as you imagine. I'm afraid that it's going to be very difficult for me to make up my mind if I were to continue our relationship. Leng Yaozhu sighed. All right. Then, please carry out our plan. There are 4 opponents which you will be facing. Each of them is a Spirit Pagoda genius. Defeat them and you'll become the #1 successor in line for Spirit Pagoda's future Pagoda Master. Each time you lose, you'll drop a position in the succession line. In the weeks to follow, teacher will put more pressure on you to elevate your potential. However, I believe that you're the best. After all, in the history of Spirit Pagoda, you're the only person whose spiritual power has reached the peak of Spirit Abyss before you're even 20 years old. Once you've achieved your breakthrough, your world will be boundless like the sea and heaven. You'll become a title Dolor before you turn 30 for sure. Thank you. Tang Wulin stared at the pieces of battle armor shimmering with faint golden radiance on the console table before him as he expressed his heartfelt appreciation to Yi Xinglan. His comrades were all by his side at present. Not only Tang Wulin but the rest of his comrades had been dedicated to searching for Gu in the past few days. Xie Xie grabbed Tang Wulin's shoulder. Big brother, don't be sad. There must be something very important Gu had to attend to. She'll come back for sure. I know that she'll be back for sure. Thus, I'm going to make myself more powerful. Otherwise, how can I walk by her side if I'm far behind? Tang Wulin's mouth cracked into a faint smile. At least in the eyes of his comrades, he appeared the same as before. Yuan Yehue was relieved. You're always so strong and courageous as the battle progresses. This is where you're better than me. Yi Xinglan spoke, I think that you'll need to condition yourself first before you perform the fusion. Tang Wulin shook his head. There's no need. I'm not that fragile. If even the fusion of the one-word battle armor is difficult for me, then how am I still worthy to be your captain? The items that were placed on the console table was the entire set of one-word battle armor. These were all forged by Yi Xinglan personally over the years. All his battle armors had already been prepared and only lacked in the fusion process. When the battle armor was fused, he could finally become a one-word battle armor master. This was once his long-cherished goal. However, there was only a faint smile on his face and not excitement at this moment. Tang Wulin first picked up his cuirass as he was speaking. The cuirass was the largest piece of battle armor and was the core battle armor. The cuirass was compact, covered with a rectangular plate on each of its two sides. It was a one-piece design, and it felt extremely heavy in his hands. Tang Wulin announced, please take a few steps back. The group of people hastily backed away so he could have some space. In the next moment, they could see Tang Wulin's eyes brightened as intense golden radiance shot out of his eyes. Strong blood essence fluctuation flared up in a split second in a solid-like manner. Xie Xie reacted most strongly to what was happening. He gave out a muffled snort while taking a step back subconsciously. His face turned pale as he fell to the ground. The battle armor inside his body was unleashed and covered his entire body swiftly. Only then did he regain his composure, but he could not help gasping in astonishment. It was not only him, but the rest of the people reacted differently as well. They could only feel a gush of incomparably powerful force bursting forth from Tang Wulin's body abruptly. It had that incredible imposing force of a superior on an inferior. The sensation became more intense as the thick golden mist surged out from his body. Yuan Yehue and Yi Xinglan were in the best condition among them. They had only backed away a step while the others backpedaled at least 2 steps. The expression on everyone's face was one of shock. After all, everyone on the scene had a cultivation base higher than Tang Wulin. They were all 5-ring Soul King powerhouses and one-word battle armor masters. In spite of the disparity between their powers, the bloodline aura of Tang Wulin was capable of making them feel a strong and irresistible presence, much to their surprise. It had been 3 years, and it seemed like his soul power had not elevated at all, but then why was the imposing manner of his body so much thicker than before? If they were to find out that Tang Wulin had been meditating within the Dragon Clan in the Dragon Valley all along, and that he was using the dragon spirit, which had naturally formed every time he was exhausted from burying dragons, to replenish himself, they would no longer be so shocked. It was true that Tang Wulin's soul power had not increased by much. On the other hand, his bloodline power was nourished in a way that he had never experienced in the past 3 years. The genuine, pure dragon power continuously strengthened his body to the point where even he was unaware of what his bloodline power was capable of achieving. Indeed, there was no doubt that even Long Yu, who possessed the Mountain Dragon King martial soul, was completely suppressed by his aura. His bloodline was elevated to such a level even before he could begin to truly reveal the Golden Dragon King aura. 4 golden soul rings arose from underneath Tang Wulin's feet in succession and spun around his body. The golden mist that burst forth from him slowly seeped into his cuirass. His cuirass immediately began to emit a dazzling glow. Its faint golden gloss rapidly turned brilliant. Tang Wulin's eyes glowed brighter and brighter until the dense mist rolled up around his body, 3 meters thick in diameter. All the golden battle armor pieces on the console table began to shake slightly. The pieces then began to float in midair one by one as they surrounded Tang Wulin. Tang Wulin raised his head as golden scales slowly emerged and rapidly covered his entire body, followed by his original rear braces and pauldrons. Absorb! Tang Wulin shouted aloud. All the armor seemed to be consumed by that gold mist and transformed into streams of golden light that fused into his body in a split second. Within just a few breaths, the battle armor had merged with his body. The one-word battle armor was completely absorbed. Light golden battle armor covered his entire body. The patterns on it were not excessive, but there was a faint dragon design with sharp blades protruding from his arms and shoulders. A faint scale pattern emerged on the surface of the battle armor when Tang Wulin's blood essence surged. The helmet covered his whole head. There were protrusions like dragon horns on both sides of the helmet with a crest line extending ever so slightly in the middle of the helmet. A golden mask shielded Tang Wulin's face, revealing only his eyes that were glowing with gold light. The most prominent features of the battle armor were the pair of dragon horns on the helmet and also the protrusions that appeared on the 2 sides of his forearms and calves. These had sharp edges and appeared rather similar to the shape of dragon horns. There was a peculiar texture to the faint golden light blended with the shimmering radiance from his face mask. Tang Wulin could feel as something was added to his body in a split second, but they seemed to turn into a part of his body instantly. His soul power and bloodline infused into the armor before flowing back to his body once again. He felt as if his entire physique had grown larger. That enormous amplification made him wish that he could find a location to vent his feelings. You need to familiarize yourself with the battle armor's strength. Shall we go to the sparring arena? Yi Xinglan asked Tang Wulin. Yes. Tang Wulin wished to try it out as well, to find out how powerful he was after he donned the battle armor. The inner court had its own sparring arena that was different from the outer court. One would need to pay a fee to access the outer court sparring arena while there was no need in the inner court. One could access it at any time as long as no one was using it. After all, it was extremely important for the students who had achieved a certain cultivation base to elevate themselves using the sparring arena. Actual combat experience was even more important than one's soul power on many occasions, especially for Shrek Academy's students. There was no doubt that the strength of the inner court sparring arena far exceeded the outer courts, especially the strength of its protective shield. The thick protective shield also covered the ground beneath their feet. Even though it did not feel as comfortable stepping onto the soul energy, but it would ensure that the arena was damaged as little as possible. Shu Lixi stood on the outside of the sparring arena while the rest of the people stood inside. Who's up first? Tang Wulin looked toward his companions. Yi Xinglan was about to speak when Yuan and Yehui had already taken a step forward by her side. I'll go first. Sure. Yuan and Yehui was the strongest among them when it came to her soul power and cultivation base. I've already achieved rank 57 soul power. Be careful, Yuan and Yehui warned Tang Wulin. Her speed of advancing 10 ranks in 3 years did not seem to be swift enough. However, her rank 57 soul power was already rather shocking. Back when Long Yu was 20 years old, he was only slightly over rank 60. Tang Wulin smiled. All right. They were 50 meters apart while the rest of the crowd fell back a distance. Xie could not help shouting, "Big brother, can you please be gentle?" Shut up, Yuan and Yehui spoke unpleasantly. Xie sniggered. I'm concerned about you, you see. Yuan and Yehui did not acknowledge him anymore. Light flashed past her eyes as she swiftly unleashed her martial soul. The glow of her soul rings arose rapidly with 2 purple and 3 black rings. There was no doubt that her elevation was not only in her soul power but overall. She was absolutely considered hyper-powerful at a Soul King's level. As Tang Wulin was wearing one-word battle armor on his body, Yuan and Yehui unleashed her battle armor as well without the slightest hesitation. the yellow battle armor as dense as the ground covered her entire body. After her success in collecting a set, the color of her battle armor was slightly deeper than when Tang Wulin first saw it on the Star Luo continent. There was nothing she could do about this. After all, Yuan Yehui also possessed the fallen angel martial soul herself, but she could only own one set of battle armor. She would need to harmonize the interplay of her two martial souls as best as she could when she was making the battle armor. Hence, her battle armor had both earth and darkness attributes. Her battle armor would switch between states voluntarily when she was using different martial souls. This was actually a flaw because the amplification effect on each martial soul was slightly lesser than ordinary one-word battle armor in order to compromise for having more than one. This was the reason why Yuan Yehui was always a loyal supporter of Spirit Alloy one-word battle armor all along, because its amplification was highly important to her. The creation of her battle armor was the most troublesome. It would delay too much time for her to remake her armor into two-word battle armor all over again. Moreover, Spirit Alloy could be used to fuse repeatedly in order to strengthen the battle armor even more and reduce the negative effect of double attribute battle armor. Yuan Yehui howled into the sky as she spread her arms. Two streams of light shined from her hands. Soon after, the soul rings on her body glowed as her body expanded rapidly and transformed into the 6-foot-tall Titan giant ape in a split second. There was no doubt that Titan giant ape was most suitable to fight Tang Wulin. The height of her martial soul at present showed that her Titan giant ape martial soul was even more powerful than before. Those two streams of light beaming from her hands were, in fact, the two giant spirit alloy hammers gifted to her by Tang Wulin. Compared to the past, the giant hammer's aura was slightly different with clearly enhanced soul power fluctuations. The hammers were obviously modified to a certain degree to make them even more powerful. The Titan giant ape was 6 feet tall with an incomparably tough body, and with the addition of this pair of terrifying 5-meter-long hammers, her power and influence were even capable of scaring away a mecha. The corners of Tang Wulin's lips could not help twitching. He was gasping with admiration in his heart as he took a glance at Xie Xie in the distance. Xie Xie must be inclined to masochism. Yuan Yehui was not going easy on Tang Wulin. Even though he had only 4 rings, Tang Wulin's overall power was more than just his soul power and cultivation base back then. Moreover, though his soul power had not elevated much after his return this time, the bloodline aura in his body was much more powerful by many times when compared with previously. Yuan Yehui would never hold back when she was fighting against Tang Wulin now. She took a step forward with her left foot and her body had already leaped into the air. She raised her pair of giant hammers and pounded down from the sky. The hammers moved in tandem akin to the meteor that chased after the moon. Is this the air cannon? Tang Wulin was astonished. At the same time, he understood profoundly that Xie Xie was capable of defeating Yuan Yehui because she was going easy on him yesterday. It had been a few years since they last met, and Yuan Yehui had already cultivated the air cannon to such impressive degree. Accompanied by the giant hammers in her hands and the amplification of her one-word battle armor, these 2 air cannon balls exploded so frightfully in the air that even an ordinary soul cannon could not measure up to it. This video will end here. Like video and subscribe to my channel.